Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Outer Rim Rambling with myself, the Outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by the Jedi Knight, Danny Brown. Danny, how are you, my friend?
I am very good. You know what? I'm really appreciating the longer mornings that are coming in. I like that I'm walking to work in the sunshine rather
Mm,
than the dark, so we're getting to that time of year. You're getting there's a queer stretch coming.
mm,
So that's something to look forward to. Um, yeah, what about you? How are you getting on?
not too bad, man. I went out today. I bought Dogma on 4K and then sort
Okay.
of just stared at it for a while because it's a movie. You know when you see a movie so many times, but then you buy it on physical and you're like, I'll probably never watch this, but holding it is nice enough.
Yeah, of course. I still have the original. Remember, it was distributed by Channel 4 in the
Hmm.
UK first, so I still have the Channel 4 DVD edition downstairs. And yeah, I really appreciate that. But I think I might have to pick up the 4K edition as well to go with it. I
Mm.
reckon.
I have the film 4 version, the American version that looks like the Bible. And
Mm-hmm.
then now this third version. Why do I need three versions? Why do I not?
Why do you not need three versions of Dogma? You know who I bet has three versions of Dogma as well? Maybe. I'll
Mm,
ask him.
today's guest joining us today is Dave Gernon, who is the man at the head of the table for Minicon Ireland. Dave, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, yeah. Busy. I'm
Um,
very busy at the minute, but yeah, I'm doing good.
how many copies of Dogma do you own?
Zero.
Ah, it's Dave.
Grand total of zero.
We'll
Yeah, do you
send you
know,
six.
Enjoy it.
I actually had a look through all of my DVDs about a month ago. I was trying to clear some space and I was looking at them. I was like, I actually have some good DVDs here that I should stick on.
Hmm.
But I haven't bought any physical media. I'd be big into music and would have spent a lot of money on records and stuff back in the 90s and 90s. And I think I adapted with the whole MP3 thing and the turn to digital.
Hmm.
But yeah, I still appreciate the DVD and the physical copies, especially with records. I love vinyl. I love the sound of vinyl. Love that
Yeah.
analog sound. But yeah, it's one of those things that I haven't kept up with. I wouldn't have space, and I probably don't have time either. So
Fair, fair. Do you like Dogma as a movie?
it's not something that would jump out at me as being something that I would have rewatched many times. Maybe I need
Mhm.
to go back and rewatch it.
Now's your
All
time.
right.
It's just been released in 4K.
Yeah, I must have a look.
Yeah. What DVDs jumped out at you when you were looking through your collection?
Oh, Band of Brothers.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Band of
Nice. Very
Brothers
good.
jumped out at me, and I said, I need to show my wife this because I don't think she's seen it. Um, what else? Highlander, the original
Hmm.
Highlander.
Nice. Yep.
Um, I think it's going to be very hard to beat with the new one, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, in actual fact, I don't think the new one can be better than the original. I don't think you can beat the original Highlander, to be honest.
I recently did a watch. I'd never seen Band of Brothers before until last year. My fiance and I sat down to watch it, and fuck, what an incredible show!
Yeah,
Fantastic show.
unbelievable. And it's been so long since I've watched it now that I think I could watch it again and like it won't be like, oh, I know what's going to happen next because I've sort of forgotten, but I know that
Aye.
was incredible.
Fantastic, fantastic show. But we kind of touched on a lot of content that is not Star Wars so far. What about Star Wars? Did you have the Star Wars DVDs or Blu-rays in your collection?
Um, I come from an era where we probably didn't need DVDs. We
Hmm.
didn't have them. We didn't have them when I got into Star Wars. I think as a kid that was born in 1980, I think you grew up and didn't know a world without Star Wars. So every toy shop you went into was wall to wall Star Wars, and I know we call it vintage Star Wars now. To me, at the time, it was just Star Wars. Yeah, so it had me hooked from the start. I think as a kid at that age, and I suppose video games and stuff hadn't really taken off. So yeah, I'd be playing in my room with my Star Wars toys, and Boba Fett was in my hand so much that the paint wore off his chest with sweat from my palms. So yeah, Star Wars was it for me, but I think yeah, people I suppose that know my events think that it's all about Star Wars. It really isn't. It's one of the things that I had access to was Star Wars guests, and I really enjoy when we get guests who worked on, say, the Dark Crystal and stuff like that as well, because that would have been my era of movies, and yeah, Dark Crystal for me was probably it might have been actually more important for me than Star Wars. Dark Crystal. But a lot of people that worked on the Dark Crystal, luckily enough, they worked on Star Wars as well. So when I bring a guest from one of them over, they might have worked on the other as well. So it's nice and
Yeah,
handy.
there's fantastic, that crossover between the Henson Company and Lucasfilm is great, especially this year with the anniversary of Labyrinth, and we're getting that's the perfect come together of Lucasfilm and Henson. So it was great getting to see Labyrinth on the big screen again there recently for its cinematic re-release. But I take it, so are you a big, is it specifically Dark Crystal or are you a Henson head?
I wouldn't say I'm a Henson head. I appreciate the work that went into creating, like the Dark Crystal. Nothing like that had been done before that movie came out. It was like a whole world was created, and none of it was from our world. So it was all created by like environmental puppeteers, and all of the sets were built, and like there was nothing in it. I think there was one actor in it, that had to play a part of one of the gelflings running up a tree or something like that. But everything else in it is like 100% manufactured for that world, and I was just 100% drawn into it. Incredible, and the Skeksis, like the characters, was just incredible. It's unbelievable, and I don't think it has been replicated as well to this day. I think it stands the test of time, and I know people can look at it and see the opening shots are sort of like shaky and stuff because they look like they're on video, but to me, it's just incredible.
It's got that charm to it, I love it as well. What did you think of Age of Resistance?
I liked it as well. Disappointed that they don't seem to be going any further with it. There's probably more stories to tell there. I think as a kid, I suppose I felt a little bit cheated that there's no follow-up to the Dark Crystal when I was a kid. Like, but now talking to some of the people that worked on it, it's like I know why, because they spent like years working on the Dark Crystal in every aspect of it, from the performers to the puppet fabricators to everybody. It was just like it was a colossal production, and I'm glad that they committed to creating it. So, but yeah, it was probably one of those things that I probably could have, had the Dark Crystal never been released. I probably could have watched Star Wars and still been a Star Wars fan, but I think the Dark Crystal pulled me into the sci-fi fantasy realm like hook, line, and sinker. You get me?
Yeah.
It probably is a good thing in one aspect that it didn't have a sequel, because a sequel could have sucked and I could have been like, right, that's a load of rubbish now. But carrying it with you anywhere, I was looking for something maybe similar or something as good. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose yeah, getting the 80s for me was the ultimate. It was the golden age of cinema in my mind, from those area films like Star Wars and Dark Crystal, and then going into the likes of Aliens and Predator. The 80s, just like most of my top 10 movies from then, even Lost Boys and Terminator. Just so many classic films came out in that time.
Whenever you're putting on the cons and you sort of have the nostalgia feeling when you're booking guests, is there like mainstay franchises that you want, just personally want the people over from that's not like Star Wars?
I suppose the guest selection for me, the very first event like this that I ran, I suppose I've been involved in events for probably 25 years, maybe longer. A sound engineer by trade, and then went on to be an event host at hundreds and hundreds of shows. So what I wanted to do with these events was to talk to people who had a specific area of expertise in the film industry. And our first guest in 2019 was Trevor Butterfield. So Trevor, I suppose I chose Trevor. He played a lot of roles in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but he also was a practical effects guy, and he worked on Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, Labyrinth as well. He worked on Ludo's movement, I think, in Labyrinth. The alien's head in Aliens, he came up with the pneumatics that control the head. So he was a great guest. At the time, probably first event ever without any following. I think we had between 50 and 70 people at that show, and looking back, the disappointment at the time was that we didn't bring in enough to make money. But now looking back, it's like we didn't get enough people to appreciate who we brought to Ireland. So, but I suppose after that, we were supposed to bring Stephen Calcutt. He was Darth Vader and Chewbacca's double and stand-in across the three original trilogy. And we were supposed to bring him in March 2020, and we all know what happened. So, it shut everything down, and I just gave up on the idea because I said it was just too. It was too dangerous to run events after COVID happened for me. And I suppose when I got back thinking about it, I met Hugh Spite at a show in Croydon, and he said he'd love to come to Ireland. And I said, well, I used to run shows there, and he convinced me to put on another couple of shows with him. And we did. Ran one in Dublin City, and ran one in Loud Village, which is a small village outside Dundalk, where I'm from originally. And I think we had three times as many people turn up in the little rural community hall than we did at the venue at St Stephen's Green in Dublin. So I said, right, there's obviously an interest outside Dublin and all this stuff. And I think growing up outside a big city, I think I know what it's like to grow up somewhere where there's nothing going on if you're not into sport and stuff like that. So, but yeah, getting away from the main point there, I suppose what happened was that because of Trevor and Hugh, I had a lot of access to Star Wars guests specifically after bringing those guys over. Because yes, I suppose connections is everything, as you guys know. Once you get a few people on the podcast, other people say, yeah, these guys are actually good at what they do. And I think the turning point for me was when I was able to stop contacting people and they were contacting me. I think when Femi Taylor contacted me for Drogheda Comic Con a few years ago, I was like, okay, we're obviously doing something right here. And after that, the floodgates now have opened up where we brought a few Pixar guests and Stranger Things and a few different things that we probably hadn't looked at before. And now my inbox is just exploding with stuff. There's so many guests contacting me that I can't actually bring them all over. So, but I always, it's not that I pick and choose. I want to pick people who have the interesting stories to tell, as well as people who are engaging with their fans, because there's nothing more, and you guys will know this being fans yourselves, going to a convention or a talk or a signing, and the person who you're there to meet doesn't even look up at you when they're signing stuff. I think I avoid that at all costs. I usually have a phone call with the guests beforehand and make sure that we're all on the same page because I think I suppose I pitch these events at families and it's not that I just want families to turn up. It's that it's for every demographic. It's for every age group. We try and provide something for every age group so that kids can come along. The older kids, the teenagers, who might usually go to stuff with their parents, they'll come along, and the parents will actually enjoy the stuff as well because some of it will be from their childhoods. And so yeah, it's a difficult job. I think selecting the right guests to make sure that you get enough people there from enough demographics to fill a venue. But yeah, it's been working so far. So, but yeah, exclusively Star Wars. No, there is people who think that our shows are exclusively Star Wars. They're definitely not. Even if it's even if I had all Star Wars guests, I'd make sure that there was other stuff going on. Like whether it was a couple of years ago in Monaghan Comic Con, we had Sirio Farrell, the guy who played Sirio Farrell, come over and done a sword fighting workshop with kids and adults and stuff like that. Try and have different miniature painting, Warhammer miniature painting going on. A lot of different stuff for different demographics and Pokemon related things, and just enough stuff to keep everybody entertained, everyone in the family. And if someone doesn't like any of it, then it's probably not for them, man. At least they came to see if they were interested in some way.
Yeah, that's it's good that you're trying to ensure that you're covering all bases for all fandoms. It's great that when you're advertising your guests, you don't just be like this person from Star Wars. You're sure to mention that they featured in episodes of Doctor Who or stuff that they maybe started their career in, as well as the bigger stuff. I know you started out as Sci-Fi Talks was what you kind of started as,
Sci-fi
and then
talk started. Yeah, do you know
yeah.
it's something that came into my head in the yeah, it was around 2016. I think my wife brought me to a show in the Axis Theatre in Ballymun in Dublin, and it was a live talk with a guy called Doug Allen. Now, Doug Allen was one of the principal photographers for Planet Earth with David Attenborough. So, my wife be into animals. She's a veterinary nurse for a while, and I would be into video and videography and cinematography, all that kind of stuff. So it was the perfect date for us too because she liked and I got what I liked. And when I walked away from it, I was like, that was so interesting because he was talking about how he got the shots and stuff, but then he was talking about the animals and it was a mixture of both. And I was like, maybe there's something that could be done like this in Ireland for people who worked on movies that I like even more than documentaries. So yeah, that's how it kicked off. And Sci-Fi Talks was what I pitched as being, yeah, we're going to talk to people from sci-fi movies. Um, after COVID, when we came back, I suppose we realized that the first show that we did probably didn't have enough to pull in those families and pull in enough people to come along and enjoy the event. Um, but yeah, I wonder, was it that I didn't promote it well enough, or was it that reason? But when we came back with Minicon, it was basically a mini convention, so it was the talk, and it was all the vendors and cosplayers and all that stuff, and that stuff exploded then. And I think after 3 or 4 shows, people started saying you need to stop calling this mini now. It's not mini anymore. I think once you go past a couple of hundred people at a show, it's. I know from my music days, if we were running a show in Dublin and 200 people turned up, that was a big show in Dublin back in those days. And if it was 400, it was like, wow, that's incredible. But then once you cross 1,000, it's like, yeah, that's a very successful event. Unbelievable. But yeah,
Yeah.
very very thankful to everybody who supports it, because economically the shows couldn't go ahead without the support of everyone who comes along, whether it's the likes of the Bounty Brothers who make the masks and stuff, or whether it's Ludo Sport Ireland doing lightsaber workshops, or like, and the cosplayers as well. We've got a good cosplay team there. Keen and Phoebe look after all the cosplay side of stuff for us, and yeah, without everybody getting stuck in and helping out, and Karen, our photographer, incredible. She's not just incredible photographer, she's incredible front of house person to meet people when they're arriving and make everyone welcome straight away. So yeah, without all those people, it probably couldn't happen. And I'm very aware of that. Obviously, without people coming along and paying in the door, couldn't happen either. So yeah, hugely thankful. Yeah, someone said to me recently, what was one of the vendors said, Dave, enjoy this while it lasts. And I was like, well, it's going to last as long as people want it to last. I'm not going to push it past when, if people stop coming and don't want to come anymore, then it's run its course. And I'm okay with it, that sort of stuff. I'm a realist in terms of reality. But yeah, as long as people keep coming, we keep on putting on the good shows, and as long as people keep supporting, and we try and keep bias out of the event, and try and keep egos out of the event, and just a welcoming atmosphere where everybody can get on with each other. And I know it's not 100% possible. Some people clash personality wise, but yeah, just stay away from each other at the show, you know.
It sounds from I haven't had the privilege of being to one yet, but I do intend to go to the Newry one that's coming up, which we'll plug later. But I've from all accounts that I've heard from different cosplayers I know or people who've attended, like they always say it's such a lovely run event. It's good atmosphere, it doesn't feel overly corporate or like you've got to be hitting certain things at certain times. It's just apparently a very easy going event. So yeah, like I'm excited to attend. And as you say, you're bringing something to communities that otherwise wouldn't get that sort of thing. You're sort of going to areas that aren't just the big name cities, and providing something that is different, And as you say, there may come a time where the appetite runs out, but I don't think it will. I think there's always going to be those those fandoms that need serviced in places that aren't just Dublin or Belfast, and it's great to see that someone local is also behind it. It's not just a big corporation like Sideshow or not Sideshow.
Don't mention any other event names.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know any
Who?
other big ones, but no other like you're not a big corporation trying to put these things on. You're people who are doing it for the love of it, and you're kind of like, well, what would I like to see? And you're like,
Yeah,
there's people like me. They want to see
yeah, I
that.
suppose it's not just what would I like to see. I try and look at this through the eyes of a kid like me, who, yeah, he may like Star Wars, but he could also have got into painting miniatures just as easy, or he could have got into trading cards had they been as popular back in the 80s. But yeah, kids that weren't into sport and weren't into all of the usual stuff that is available in all of the local towns across Ireland. Like there's football fields in every parish, every village, every town. And then, you see on public notice boards on social media about kids that have been causing trouble, and everyone saying, oh, they should be up playing football or playing rugby. And you're like, so what if those kids don't play sports? Like, I was that kid that didn't, probably good at some sports, but never interested in it. So, yeah, having nothing for these kids, that I think if you have the ability to bring something like that to those areas and you don't do it, then I think you can never complain again. And I think there's so many people out there who would complain about stuff rather than being proactive and set up a youth center for kids or set up workshops for them. Like loads of people doing really cool stuff from all across the country who could be showing kids at the weekend how to do that stuff. And I think when I was younger and there was more of an appetite for hip hop and dance music, I was running workshops in Youth Reach and youth clubs in the south and done some cross border stuff up north. I was always busy with Feroga down here, all the youth clubs teaching them how to make beats and how to sequence stuff and sample and mix and because if you can do it and you're not showing people and you're complaining then the kids are getting up to trouble, then what can you do? Like you're part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I think with Minicon, I suppose I'm aware that there's an awful lot of actually most of Ireland is not covered with this stuff. And if kids want to do it, they got to convince their parents to drive them to Dublin and spend I don't know how much they're going to spend on parking before they buy their tickets and get their lunch and pay for fuel and tolls on the roads. You're talking like probably a couple of hundred quid before they even buy anything. So I think having it in their on their doorstep, and if people want to come along, they can come and check it out. We get people wandering in who think it's a comedy thing because the name comic is in it, and they leave like buzzing for the next one. It's amazing that you take it for granted that everybody knows exactly what you're doing, and I think with my marketing now, I try and state it in such a way that people will understand. Yeah, this isn't comedy or this isn't just about comics. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think learning and adapting, but. Yeah, it's very much for children, and I think one of the things I have a great interest in psychology, and one of the things that they will say in psychology is that you should stay in touch with your inner child, and I believe that strongly. Even the Stoic philosophers said that you should hold on to your youthful enthusiasm because it'll serve you better in old age. So I think looking at things through the eyes of kids, then you can probably suit them better. I think there's a lot of adults that think they know what's right for kids, but without looking at things through their eyes, then you're just going to be assuming what they like from an adult's perspective, which might be wrong. And then again, I might make the wrong decision sometimes as well. But yeah, at least you're trying, that sort of way.
Yeah, you live and
yeah,
learn. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think in the last 15 years, sort of the lexicon of pop culture has sort of changed and became more mainstream. There's a lot of the prototypical, oh, you like this, so you're a nerd is now the cool thing. So people have sort of opened up their minds, and especially when it comes to kids, wanting to pursue careers in stuff like artistry or becoming comic book artists. Like we had Mr. Will Slaney on the podcast, and he was
yeah,
talking about obviously he teaches kids how to draw comic books. And it's probably something you wouldn't have seen 15 years ago, but something that wasn't like readily available.
yeah. I think when I look back at me when I was especially young teenager, you're impressionable and your formative years. I was learning stuff from Sound on Sound magazine, Future Music. I was learning how to make beats myself and program synthesizers and stuff. And had someone been there to show me that stuff, I was like, where could I have gone with that? But yeah, it's the same with yeah, comics. There's comic book workshops we put on some with PJ Holden at Monaghan Comic Con a couple of years ago, and he would try and do stuff like that and have the likes of Mike Carroll come along and talk about writing and yeah, we try and give kids access to that stuff, and I think we got some messages after Monaghan, and sometimes I get messages, very emotional messages from parents that their kids didn't have anything to do where they were, and we brought our show to town, and that their life just changed. So you get those emotional things that you sort of need to hold back the emotion sometimes when you hear of how important it was in someone's life, and you think maybe that person's going to go on and do something great with it, or maybe equally just having it as a hobby for the rest of their life would be great, or even having a few years of it that they really enjoy. That's all important as well. So it's not all about. I was explaining to my sons earlier on about because my son mentioned something about being rich, and I talked to him about the importance of money is just that you have enough, and yeah, if you have a bit extra, cool, but trying to be a millionaire or billionaire, it's not really a good goal to be looking at in your life. I think there's loads of other rewarding things you can do and consider yourself successful doing. So yeah,
Well, it seems you've definitely hit something with the Minicon events, and you're definitely appealing to what it is you seek to do with as an adult organizing these events, but also appealing to your inner child. And does that inner child get fulfilled and excited when you have these people who are working on projects that you grew up loving? And like, who has come so far that's just made your inner child burst with excitement?
I'm one of those rare Irish middle-aged men who has a great control of my emotions. I never really get too angry or too excited. I like, yeah, I like the buzz after a show when I look around the room and everybody's smiling and there's loads of people talking who've never spoken before and new friendships forging, and it's not even about the guests at that point. It's about the whole community. And yeah, that's I remember it was at Cavan Comic Con last year. It wasn't our busiest event ever, but yeah, we'd probably 300 or 400 people there, and I was just swinging my legs on the stage after, just looking around and saying, "This is it doesn't get better than this." The satisfaction that I felt after that show, which is a weird one because you'd think maybe one of the shows that had over 1,000 people at it, you'd be like, "Yes, this is brilliant," but it wasn't. It was one of the smaller ones that I was hoping would be bigger, but just didn't hit the right numbers. But it was still a good show for the area, and yeah, I felt the buzz then. But I suppose that I don't really get starstruck. I think people's personalities, I think, impress me more than what they've done. Um, but yeah, it is cool when you're talking to someone who worked on, as I said, Dark Crystal or Return of the Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back. I think it's more getting the stories behind the scenes and stuff where I'm like, wow. And Trevor Butterfield telling me about how he moved the alien's head and some of the stuff that he did in Indiana Jones. I think he moved the tank where the fight was going on. He moved the tank and that, and you're just looking at them going, wow, you're part of history. But yeah, starstruck, I don't think so. I don't. I suppose I met a lot of famous people over the years in the music industry and stuff, and a lot of egos on display there. And yeah, I would never be impressed by someone for being famous. I'm more impressed with people who are successful at what they do, and nice people to meet. So yeah, as I said, I always try and make sure the guests that we bring over are engaging. Um, but saying that, Femi Taylor, when she contacted me for a show, I was like, "Is this for real?" I was like, I had to check, "Is this a real message?" But yeah, it turned out it was. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, none of them have made me like into a jittery mess in front of them or anything like that. So
Yeah. Not Jerry Mess, but I think what I mean is just that, as you say, appealing to the inner child when they sort of make you'd be like, oh my God, that's, Mr. Barfield or Femi Taylor. It's sort of just like, oh, okay, that who'd have thought I'd have got to talk to that person before? Like I know Adam and I, through doing the podcast, there's been guests that have agreed to speak to us that were like, wow, like we never thought we would get to talk to Brendan Wayne or Dan Madsen or these people who have become a part of Star Wars that were like, oh, like well, before we're starting this podcast, I don't think we thought we would get as lucky to have as many guests on. And as you say, to kind of then get talking to them and then be just like normal, friendly people who are really happy to talk about their careers. It's like this is nice, and all those, as you say, getting those wee nuggets of stories from people is fantastic.
yeah, I think when you do look at the star qualities or whatever you want to call it, celebrity status, I think I was saying to someone recently that with the events that we run, I think it's as important the characters that they played as the famousness of the actor. So when we had John Morris over, who voiced Andy in Toy Story, um, yeah, everybody, I would think, most people in the world would know Andy from Toy Story, and there he is sitting in front of you at Dundalk Comic Con, and it's like, yeah, like 1,100 people turned out to that show, so yeah, that's a bit of a yeah, you're like looking going, this guy voiced Andy in Toy Story, the Andy from Toy Story. Yes, I suppose you do think that for a minute, but probably much better than that is that he's a really nice guy, like super nice to everybody that he met. Everybody was adding him on social media. I still see him chatting to people he met in Dundalk, and yeah, we decided we'd bring him back for Galway Comic Con in June
Mhm.
because yeah, the other side of the country deserves to see him and meet him as well. But yeah, I like that when you got someone who could go around saying, "Oh, I played Andy in Toy Story. I don't need to look up to you when I'm signing this." But it's just like super cool, recording videos for people and loads of photographs and selfies and all. Brilliant. I think that's the sort of person that I want to meet is who I want other people to meet. Like there is notorious people on the con circuit that don't even look up when they're signing and are rude to people and full of self-importance, and they're not my cup of tea. So, or as I say, they're not my kind of Coke. I'm the only Irishman that doesn't drink tea. So yeah, not my kind of Coke.
What about a few? So obviously, you sort of mentioned there a few of your favorite sort of stories from guests, but do you have any Star Wars related stories that you've been told that you'd like to share?
I have one, but I'll share it, which is afterwards.
Okay.
Share. Do you know it's funny sometimes you're talking to the guests when they arrive and they don't know you too well, and after a few days they would tell you their whole life story. So it's handy for me flying people in probably a couple of days before so I can chat with them. They know that I'm not an asshole. I can say asshole, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they know I'm not an asshole, and usually I'll have good chemistry with whoever comes over, whoever's been selected to come over. So, yeah, they open up to you and tell you stuff. Sometimes I hear stuff that I shouldn't hear, but like anyone who does know me knows that if you tell me a secret, I'll take it to the grave with me. So I think yeah, people generally get that idea when they're dealing with me anyway. That yeah, this guy can be trusted. So which is always good, good vote of
Yeah.
confidence. But yeah, you do hear stuff that they signed an NDA for and they've told you, and you shouldn't actually even be saying that, but I'm not going to say any names.
That's it. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So you know information behind an NDA. That's fine. We'll leave that there.
Yeah, yeah. Delete, delete.
Yeah, yeah. Boom. Um, no, that's good. In terms of, I suppose, just going back and kind of touching on your sort of being Star Wars fandom, like you say, you're not like a massive Star Wars fan, but you still enjoy it. You grew up with the original trilogy and playing with your Boba Fett toy. Did you still go on to watch the prequels and the sequels and the TV shows and everything else that has kind of come since?
Yeah, I think the problem for me was that nothing came out. When Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, we had a couple of Ewoks movies, which I will still consider Star Wars movies. I probably liked them nearly as much as Return of the Jedi at the time, so yeah, I would consider them. But after that, there was nothing. And I think when my childhood ended and there having been no more Star Wars, it probably put a little bit of a spanner in the works for watching, say, the Clone Wars and Rebels. I did go and see the prequels in the cinema, but I suppose the expectation from people in my generation was probably very high, and it didn't. They're kids' movies. They were always going to be kids' movies, and I think my generation expected that the movies grew up with them, and now they're adult movies. But that evolution wasn't going to happen. And I think every generation of people gets disappointed with new Star Wars stuff coming out. It's that it's not from their generation and they're not in that generation anymore. They're not in that age group that the films are mostly targeted at. So they're going to find stuff to pick apart in them. I enjoyed The Phantom Menace when it came out. It's probably a little bit of disappointment that what didn't match, in my eyes, the original trilogy. Um, Attack of the Clones, I did enjoy. I thought introducing Django Fett was genius. Then Revenge of the Sith. I've only actually seen that movie a couple of times. I remember seeing it in the cinema and I said this is a good movie, and I watched it once. I think maybe with my son, and yeah, I haven't watched it again. But there is rewatchability there, I think. So yeah, I get back to it. The series I have Disney Plus, so I watched all of the series except yeah, I haven't watched all of the animations. I watched the whole Bad Batch recently. I enjoyed that. I think you got to have the time to commit now to Clone Wars and Rebels, and I don't have the time to commit to going through the whole lot of it at the minute, but I will. I've seen bits and pieces of both and a little bit of Visions.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm definitely a fan. People assume that I'm a huge like mega fan. I'm not. I know a lot of information now about the behind the scenes stuff and a lot of the actors, and probably could get a few pointless answers if I was on Pointless talking about Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know everything. Don't claim to know everything. I was the same in my music days. People would meet me and I'd be supporting Immortal Technique and Slain and all these other rappers, and people would assume you know everything about the underground and all. I was like, no, I don't know everything. I just enjoy doing what I do. Um, So yeah, I'm still pretty much like that. I'm not an anorak really on anything apart from synthesizers. Right? I could tell you anything about synthesizer history, but yeah, everything else. Like, if we didn't have a Star Wars guest at a show, I'd be disappointed. We had one where one of our guests had to pull out due to COVID, and I ended up with no Star Wars guests. And I don't think anybody really noticed that it was the first show that we did with no Star Wars at it. So yeah, it was okay with me. Once everybody enjoys the day and everyone has a happy time there, that's what it's about.
I think Star Wars, even if you don't have a Star Wars guest, Star Wars will still have a place at like conventions and stuff because people will be either cosplaying in some sort of Star Wars costume. There'll be Star Wars stuff at the trader stalls. Like you can't have, I think, a convention space without some some Star Wars representation just because of how everywhere it is.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if I walked into a convention and didn't see some Star Wars, to be honest. But yeah, like at most of our events, you get the Star Wars cosplayers and you get the 501st coming along and the next covert as well from Northern Ireland. And you will also get the traders, Carbon Market coming along. And yeah, you get a lot of the vintage toy retailers and the modern toys as well have all that stuff covered. So you got all the Black Series and all the regular Hasbro figures and vintage. We've been pretty much covered for all that stuff at every event. So yeah, there's always some Star Wars going on, regardless.
When you say that people are turning up in your inbox now looking to come to the cons, is there been you don't have to name anybody specific, but has there been people that would be a great guest but just don't fit what the convention would be?
Yes, yes, and it's very difficult explaining to people, and it takes a lot of my time trying to word things properly and not upset somebody. But it's like, as you guys mentioned, I'm not a huge organization, not a big corporation, and I have limited means available. And the way that it works, I suppose, with bringing guests over, if I was flying someone from, say, Los Angeles and they've got a 3 grand guarantee, I got to be pretty certain that they can sell 3 grand's worth of autographs. If I think that they can't, then I got to park that idea and say, let's do this down the line because all of the vendors know this about me. Just, yeah, there's a lot of vendors in my vendor group. Um, they'll know that I won't risk anything that'll put the future of the events in jeopardy from my point of view, and I won't ever overspend just to get someone who I think might do well here. So yeah, I'm very much bound to the realms of reality with budgets and stuff. We can push it a little bit sometimes, depending on. I run a lot of raffles and stuff on the social media for signed Star Wars stuff and bits and pieces that I've picked up over the years. So that helps funding things, and usually a couple of successful events in a row, I can say, right, we can push the boat out on this. I think last year. Dundalk last year was the first event that went into 5 figures in terms of spend. And yeah, it done all right. Done all right. So Dundalk this year probably matched that. We have some brilliant guests coming to Dundalk. I know you guys probably know Brian Muir and Mark Austin. We've got them coming to Dundalk. So we got Veda Sculptor and Special Edition Boba Fett. Among the two of them between if you look at their IMDb's, you guys know this already. But for anyone listening, yeah, incredible. Two incredible people to talk to about their history in the film industry. So yeah, and we've got some more guests lined up for Dundalk as well. Just can't release that information just yet.
I have some guest suggestions for you.
Yes,
The moped gang from the Book of Boba Fett would just, if you got all of them, it
I
would.
know, but you know what? I have to bring over the mopeds as well. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
For
Of
the
course.
photograph ops. But you know what? The funny thing about that is that you're probably saying that jokingly, but I can guarantee you that if I brought the whole lot of them over, you'd probably be looking at a packed event. You get enough fans from all over the country that go, the whole moped crew's going. Do you know what I mean?
Dave, it's a it's
Adam
a
I'm not
encouraged
risking it
you,
though.
like
it's a running joke on the podcast. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
I'm
gen
not.
if you
I'm not
genuinely
risking
did
it.
do it, I would be front of the queue.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think there was a time when you could say that if you brought Jar Jar Binks to Dundalk or Cavan or Monaghan or wherever, no one's going to turn up. But I can guarantee you now, if I put him on the poster
Oh yeah.
and as Keller and Beck as well, and you got those two images on the poster, you're going to have a sellout event in any regional town in Ireland.
If
And
you put
yeah,
Ahmed Best, I'd be there in a heartbeat. Like,
yeah.
there's
See,
a
you know what
big
I mean?
Jar Jar head behind me.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even see that. You were blocking him with your own Jar Jar head there. But yeah, but you know what I mean though. It's like yeah, you can joke about something, but the reality is that everybody likes different stuff, and the kids like there's someone who I know who he's heavily involved in the events with us, and he grew up on Kylo Ren, and I'm like thinking about that statement. I'm like, you grew up on Kylo Ren. That's only like a couple of years ago, but he was like a kid when Kylo Ren emerged, and I forget. Yeah, that's 10 years ago, and that's a short time for an adult and a long time for a kid. So yeah, you forget about different generations and what might be popular. So yeah, there probably is a lot of people. I know there's a lot of fans of the Book of Boba Fett. So my son loves it, absolutely loves it. He's like, Dad, do you think there should be another season of that? And I'm like, nah, nah, we're okay with the Mandalorian. I wouldn't mind if the Mandalorian just kept going on forever, and I'd be fine with that. That'd fulfill my Mandalorian needs, I think.
We did speak to Brendan Wayne, and he said he'd love to come over and do a convention in Ireland. But as you say, when it comes to booking guests, and you've got to sort of meet their guarantees and also meet other expectations, like he said, he'd love to bring his family over, including his mum, because she hasn't been over since she was a child when they were filming The Quiet Man.
Yeah.
But I imagine that'd be a hefty bill, I would
Mm.
say.
Um, yeah, I probably shouldn't say this. I've been talking to Brendan. I was talking to him a few weeks ago. I did hear that he wanted to come to Ireland. I have a feeling that he's probably going to get booked by another event sooner rather than later. But yeah, I've been speaking to him. I've been speaking to his agent, and yeah, there's a possibility we yeah with the terms that he's laid out, we could bring him. Um, I just got to look at where would make sense if we were to bring him. I
Now,
suppose.
did they mention that he did say on the podcast, and we do have the audio evidence that he were to do a Q&A with him. So I don't know if that was part of the terms and conditions, but we do have we will be contacting our lawyers if we're not called.
Yeah, you might need to talk to his agent about that.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know, yeah, there's a lot of people who I've spoken to who are probably out of reach, and I think Brendan is one of those guys that is so cool that he's not out of reach. And there's a lot of people like that who you just presume there's no point in me contacting this person. And then the next day, what have you got? You've got a message from them, or you've got them saying, I was talking to someone about you last night. And I'm like, oh, I have to be real cool here and not say, like, who are you talking to last night? And it's like, okay, someone's been talking about me and this person's contacting me now. I'm like, this saves me having to contact them, which is good. But usually I only contact people when I know that I can definitely put them on. I don't like dragging people along for months or maybe years. And as I said, I got limited resources to work with and try to put together the best show that I can. It's like those you know those graphics that pop up sometimes, like put together your best Jedi team with $15 or whatever, and the top row is like Yoda $5 and Darth Vader $5. You know them sort of things. And it's
Mhm.
the same with the shows. I got to put together a show and pick from column A and column B and column C, and make it work, and attract enough people. Um, but yeah, Brett Brendan, my dealings with him have been very positive. Shouldn't even be saying all this stuff, but.
Do you want to let us know
Yeah,
too, Reese? Cut it.
anyone that knows me, yeah, I don't really, I'm transparent with everything. I'm probably too transparent, and yeah,
Yeah.
enough said. But yeah, yeah, like the possibilities are endless, and I think what I'm doing with the Newry show, so we see Andrew Nelson coming to Newry. He's going to stay on for a week, and we're going to do a series of an evening with Darth Vader in Dundalk, in Drogheda, in Dunleary, in South Dublin, and we're looking at possibly another date inland a little bit, maybe Kildare or Offaly or somewhere like that. But yeah, but I want to see if we can bring over those more well-known characters or more well-known actors and do Comic Con with them, and then a run of events where we're just talking to them about whatever their special appeal is. Um, we had C. Andrew Nelson over for Navan Comic Con a couple of years ago, and he just went down incredibly well with everybody. And for someone I know, I think it's either 14 or 16 people that were involved in Darth Vader, either wearing the suit or obviously James Earl Jones voiced him. But yeah, you had 13 other people or 15 people in the suit and to have one of them over. And from so far back as the 90s, I think possibly everyone before him possibly gone now. So yeah, he's a really cool guy and he appreciates the fans. So
Yeah.
really,
I
really
think
good starter point for getting these shows running.
Yeah, I think it's good that you get sort of those guests that you maybe wouldn't consider, like you said, the voice of Andy, and you also had the voice of Boo over from Monsters Inc. And
Yeah.
I was speaking to Amanda from I Have Harmony, and she was saying she attended the talk with her, and she found it fascinating that for a character who at the time was a child voicing a child character, you wouldn't have maybe have given much thought to that or to the production of that, but how she was kind of brought in by her father to kind of inspire the character, but then ultimately her voice kind of ended up being that character's voice and the playfulness. And I think it's interesting that you're giving people that opportunity to hear those sort of behind the scenes that you wouldn't even consider.
Yeah, it's
And
brilliant. And the funny thing about Mary coming over, Mary stayed over for a week, and I got to show her around a lot of sites in Ireland. Brought her around Dublin and brought her around Hill of Tara and Trim Castle, where Braveheart was filmed. So she got to see a lot of Ireland in one go. She loved it. Paul from Carbon Market, I don't know if you know him. He brought her on a tour of Belfast, which she loved as well. Um, but yeah, I think when she was over, I think like a few days after she went home. There's an artist initiative that we do at the events where we pick a guest and we pick an Irish-based artist and we pair them up. So the artist creates an image of their character in the movie, and we give that out free at the door as an A3 poster to everybody that comes along. So the artist gets exposure. The guest usually sells a few more signatures on this piece because they get signed alongside the artist's signature. But the picture that we took of that with Mary and the artist from Drogheda and myself, I woke up one morning, there was like 1.5 million hits on it. And I was like, what's going on here? But Disney and Pixar just released a little video of Mary doing the voice of Boo in Monsters Inc. So nobody obviously had thought about it since the movie came out, and they shared it that day, and everybody went to her Instagram, and after a couple of days, we had like 3.5 million views on one of our artist initiative pieces, which for me was very satisfying that we'd created art for the show, and as an Irish artist who, at a time when AI is taking over pretty much the art world, that we had something like that that went so popular, um, very satisfying. But yeah, Boo, Mary's a great guest, and she's coming back to Ireland this year. She's coming back. I could probably give us an exclusive and say she's coming to Galway Comic Con. So it's not just going to be Andy from Toy Story. It's going to be Boo from Monster Inc. And they might be bringing in another friend or two. We'll see. I can't just say anything yet.
okay, so we got one
But
exclusive, but gotta wait for the rest. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Wait for the rest. Yeah.
Billy
On your
Crystal.
Billy Chris. Imagine Mike Wazowski, that would class. Um, on your artist initiative, I know you've got JB Sketch Cards is doing your next
He's doing
initiative,
our
isn't
next
he?
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
he done a couple for us before. He's a sketch card artist. He's up to the task, and he is obviously he's had loads of stuff out with Tops. He's the perfect guy to do it, and he's interested in it. And sometimes I pair up artists with guests, and maybe it's not their style. Like, I had some people who do anime and they've done characters from movies and stuff, and probably not great match. I'm still probably finding my feet with this thing, but it's like it's something to celebrate in artists, and I think it's important. And it's getting a lot of exposure for the artists. They're getting a good buzz out of it, and yeah, they're meeting a lot of people at the events because everyone's coming up to get their posters signed at their tables. So they're upselling stuff, they're chatting and they're priming people maybe for future sales. So it's good, but yeah, still finding our feet with it. But I think that JB is a perfect guy to do a Darth Vader piece, and I can't wait to see it. And I spoke to him about this maybe a month ago. Would he be up for doing it? Because I told him what I had planned for C. Andrew Nelson when he came over, that he was going to do Newry, so everyone at Newry is going to get a free copy. And then the evening with, so Dundalk, Drogheda, Leary, and wherever else we pick, they'll all get a free copy as well. But not just that, they can bring it along to Dundalk then and get signed by Brian Muir. So they've got a multi-signed Darth Vader piece, which probably would be unattainable otherwise. So yeah, it's a cool, it's a privilege to be able to do it, and it's a privilege to be able to I suppose pay the artists to do something like this because yeah, it's important. I think it's important to keep real art going. I think coming from a music background myself and a little bit of art, and appreciating movies and appreciating everything in the arts. It's like AI can just obliterate the whole lot of it if we let it. But like as I said before about running events, if you have the ability to do something and you don't do it, you can't complain anymore. So I think the Arts Initiative is my little strike back against AI. To be honest, I know that AI is going to creep into everything, and it's like hundreds of leaks in a boat. Eventually, the water's going to get in, but let's try and get some of that water back out of the boat. You know,
Yeah, yeah. And for anyone who is sort of looking to start their own sort of events, like not necessarily a mini con, they might just be looking to start, say, their own music club or theater or just something like that. I know probably selfishly I'm asking because we're planning, so Adam and I both also do the Fright Club NI, and we're putting on a show in April in Ballymena, strange and unusual celebration of
is
science
it in a big
fiction and
shopping centre
horror.
in Ballymena? Hey,
No, it's not in a big shopping centre in Ballymena High. It's going to be in the Braid Arts Centre.
ah, nice.
But we're putting on our first event this year. Last year we did a couple of screenings and we had a couple of guests over, but this is going to be like first time doing sort of something similar to yourself with a mini con, vendors, artists, small press, and a couple of guests. And we're kind of just learning as we go. But what would you advise to ourselves and also other people listening who look to do these sorts of events or something within their communities?
Don't do it. Don't do it. No, I'd say I said this to another event organizer that contacted me. It was someone who wanted to do it and was starting up, and I said they said that they weren't getting any information from all the other events. And I said you need to think about this logically. Nobody who runs a successful event is going to want to give away their secrets, except me. I'll give you some secrets. I'll give you some tips. I want to see events in every corner of the country. And another event organizer was talking to me about all the competition popping up, and he was like, "Dave, what are you going to do if like these people run this and it's better than yours?" I'm like, "If it's better than mine, then the attendees are going to a really good show. They're the winners, and that's what I want. I want the attendees to be the winners because and if the attendees are enjoying it, to spend the money, and the vendors are happy, the artists are happy, and the guests coming over are happy, and we got a real healthy ecosystem. Without organizers helping each other out, I don't know if that can happen. I don't know, it's sort of become a dictatorship type of thing. So I'm happy to see other events popping up, and I have to think on my feet, and I got to be clever because there's so many clashes now that I got to be wary that I'm running my event the same day as someone else. I got to make sure that people are at my event and not the other event. And yeah, I've got tricks there that I won't share, but anything else involved in the organization and stuff, yeah, I'm happy to help people out and tell them what they need to know. I did say it to a guy down the country recently. He could give me an old call and I'd talk him through maybe 5 or 6 points and give him some contacts for doing what he wants to do a book, an author show for authors and book writers and
Oh, is
stuff like
it
that.
Norncon?
No, it was down the south. Some that
Oh,
was somewhere down maybe near Carlow or Kilkenny or somewhere like that. But yeah,
yeah.
I regularly get people contacting me and saying how do I do this and how do I do that, and I'll tell them unless it's something that infringes on one of my USPs, then I've worked too long at events to give away information freely. But yeah, I do want to see these events running. I wonder what if anything happened to me, what would happen in terms of the minicon crowd that we have. What would they all do to be distraught? But yeah, the I wouldn't say the more the merrier. I think probably this year. I talked to one of the vendors recently who dubbed this year, what was it called? Con Con Apocalypse. There's so many conventions on that next year we're not gonna have half the amount probably. There's so many and a bit of saturation point, but I'm probably not concerned too much about that. If it happens, it happens and deal with it then. But in the
Yeah.
meantime we keep on pushing. But yeah, good luck with the event, lads. It's hard work is what I'd say. Advice wise, if it's gonna take the form of a mini convention, I'd say make sure that you have enough people there to keep the vendors happy because they're relying on it. They're relying on a crowd to be there. It's one of the things that pushes me on even more than the guests because the guests have a guarantee. The vendors don't have any guarantee. They've got to pay for tables at the mini cons, at the smaller events that we run in smaller towns. We don't charge for tables because we want everyone to make money. And I've been told numerous times you need to charge for tables. In the bigger towns, we do charge for tables because we have to do it to bring in the more well-known guests and stuff. But yeah, keep. I always say to everybody involved in the events that I run, my main job is make sure everyone leaves with a smile. Everybody, and lastly myself, I gotta be like that guy in Cavan, looking around and going, yeah, this is what I set out to do. Mission accomplished. You guys can message me for any other advice.
Yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
had a, David Stone. I don't know if you know David Stone, X-Wing pilot, B-Wing pilot in the original trilogy. Played Weasley as well, the guy that sold Luke the Landspeeder. He rang me one day and he's like, Dave, my friend wants to set up a convention. Is it okay if he calls you? I said, yeah, no problem at all. He said, no one in England will give him any information. I was like, I'm not surprised. But I said, just give him my number and he can call me. And I just need to know, does he want to run one convention or a series of conventions? And he said, why do you need to know that? I was like, because if you don't run the first one right, you won't be running all the rest of them. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's important things to get right. And look, everyone has to start somewhere. So I think the starting point for me was it was a nice one. It was like, as I said, between 50 and 70 people, and lost a bit of money on it, and that I suppose that affects your brain chemistry and say, right, I can't lose money again. So what are we going to do different next time?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think we're all right because we kind of have a foot in putting on film screenings. We've done screening events, but this is going to be our first like full day with lots of different elements going on at the one time, you know. So yeah, I'll just I'm looking forward to it, but as you say, we're aware there's going to be a lot of work to put in, you know. But we're excited for it, and we're excited. I think, as you say, there's is starting to become more of these sort of events popping around, but still in the north, there's not as much as, you know, I think we're doing this because we want to see more up here. You know,
Yeah.
and we're sort of pitching ours as like it's the first time something like this has happened in Ballymena. You know, which is mad considering Qui-Gon Jinn's from there.
Yeah,
But
you've
you
got to
know,
get him
it's
there. If you get him there,
oh,
it's
I
a
wish.
success.
See, I did reach out to Qui-Gon Jinn or Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson's agent. I reached out and they basically just came back and may as well just said you can't afford him. Like that was kind of it. And I was like, okay, all
Well,
right
you
then.
should
But
you could have said then Dairy Girls could afford him, so maybe I
yeah,
can.
maybe
You know,
I could. I would love to do what, and especially now with Sam Raimi just announcing that there's going to be a Darkman sequel. Our dream is to screen Darkman with Liam Neeson in attendance. I think that'd be great.
that would be incredible. And Phantom Menace straight after it.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
what a double bill.
Yeah, I think with something like that, you sell tickets all around the world. I think if you could pull off something like that, and I think Ireland is the sort of place that you can do it. And I would never think that anything's impossible, because yeah, like there is a possibility that people will say, yeah, I'll do that.
hmm
Because I would, if I was a well-known actor and I was chatting to one of you guys and you said you're putting this on, I'd be like, let me check the calendar here and see if I've nothing else on, because I'd like to do something like this.
Mhm.
Because again, it's given back to communities. It's like, do most kids from Ballymena only ever see Liam Neeson on TV, or do they see him in real life? Like, I'm a big one, and like I'm big into each one teach one. So if you've learned something, you go and teach someone else. And I learned that from breakdancing many years ago. If you learn breakdancing, to say each one teach one, and you gotta pass on your skills to somebody. And I think being aloof and untouchable is a dangerous thing, um, for yourself. You know. So yeah, I'd say yeah, keep at 'em, I would say.
Yeah, we'll get him. We'll
Yeah,
we'll
you'll
get him
snare
back
him
home.
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Dave, tell us about, so you've already kind of mentioned a few of the shows coming up and a few of the guests, but do you want to give us the full rundown of what people can expect for the year?
Yes. So we're staggering guest announcements for all the shows, so I'm being very careful with that because it keeps the engagement up on our social media. And I wish the world wasn't like that, but unfortunately it is. So yeah, you gotta adapt to the ecosystem that currently exists. But for Nuri's the next show, so we got C. Andrew Nelson, we got Paul Casey. Um Paul Casey, obviously, he's a creature performer in the new Star Wars movies, and played Kai Trinali. In the sequels, played Two Tubes and Admiral Raddus in Rogue One. And yeah, look, loads of other roles. And Doctor Who people are messaging me saying, "Oh, he played this guy, he played that." I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan, but I'm aware of their existence and I include them in the events. And I've brought Doctor Who guests before for that reason. I do need to brush up my Doctor Who. I did enjoy the battle between the land and sea. I did enjoy that. I watched it recently. Um, he was a choreographer on that as well, Paul. I just saw his name in the credits. I was like, oh, Paul's coming to Newry. I was like, seeing his name in the credits, cool. Yeah, Paul Casey, C. Andrew Nelson. That looking at third guest for that show as well. So usually a town like that, maybe three, four, five guests. Let's see how the tickets go. Tickets are actually going really well for Newry. I didn't expect them to be at this point that they're at the minute. So we're ahead of schedule with Newry. It's looking good. I think being able to cross promote it with the evenings with Darth Vader that C. Andrew Nelson's going to do afterwards is helping me to reach a wider audience than usual with that. But yeah, that's two guests for it at the minute. I'm gonna probably try and diversify a little bit. Rory Coleman is coming to Newry. I haven't announced that yet. That's another exclusive. So Rory's a comic book artist. He's done Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, and yeah, he's done loads of stuff. He's done the Luke Skywalker one as well, Star Wars, I think. So he's coming. I just haven't got all of his information done up yet for it. But yeah, announcing him soon. Yeah, Newry's gonna be class. I'm looking forward to it. Um,
Definitely. We'll get down for that one for sure.
yeah, you guys are gonna enjoy it if you haven't been before. It might give you some ideas for your own show. Um, so that's it. The evenings with Faded. All the tickets for all those are on sale. There's still early bird tickets left for Newry if anyone's listening. Jump on and get the cheaper tickets because they're cheaper. Um, After that, then we got Galway Comic Con. Obviously, we got John Morris, voice of Andy, coming to Galway, and exclusively revealed here, we also have Mary Boo Gibbs coming along. I'm trying to make sure there's going to be Star Wars represented over there as well, because I'm aware that I just don't want to have a whole Pixar crowd. I want everybody included as much as possible. Galway tickets are going well as well. It's a big stadium, so we're looking at thousands, yeah, thousands more than we usually deal with at that show. Dundalk, then we mentioned in July, 5th of July, and we mentioned Brian Muir and Mark Austin for that one. I have some other demographics covered with that show. I'll be releasing them soon. And then after that, we have a long break until Navan in November. There is a couple of shows that I need to squeeze in between, but that'll be basically looking at what else is on and what am I not going to clash with. Um, Navan, no guests announced yet, but I'm working on it. Um, Last year I just missed out on a really good guest for Navan, but we had really good guests there. We had Simon Williamson, obviously the actor inside Max Rebo in Return of Jedi.
We're
Um,
raging we missed that one
Mm.
because we love Max Rebo.
yeah, yeah. Navan will be good as usual. Navan's always usually busy, very busy. Yeah, the knock last year was packed, and we got to make sure that Galway is packed as well because the West Coast, I don't think gets nearly as much as what the East Coast gets. So I need to put together a really good show for there and market it well, I think, so that everybody hears about it. The main problem is the right people hearing about the events because we get messages afterwards saying, I didn't know that this was happening in Navan, or I didn't know this in Drogheda, or I never even expected something like this to come to Cavan. And you're like, well, we can only do so much. Like, it's like you don't have the budget that the big promoters have in reaching into every household in the country. So yeah, you got to try and target your specific demographics and try and get them there. So yeah, it's hard work, but yeah, that's how our year is looking. I think it was that 7 shows so far. We probably do another couple, and if the evenings with Darth Vader goes well, we might look at an evening with maybe another iconic character. We'll see what happens.
An evening
But
with
yeah,
Max Rebo, I
an
think.
evening with Max Reeve will be cool as well. Yeah, an evening with
Yeah.
the whole band will be better.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great. Size
Yeah,
and Tyler.
I suppose I try and think of things in terms of what would people read online and say I must go to that, because like I've explained this to people in the past that are putting on events. I'm like, what have you got there that's going to jump out of the screen at someone and say, I'm going to that. There's nothing. Galloping horses couldn't stop me from going to that. And I think an evening with Darth Vader, this is your chance. If you're into Star Wars, one of the actors who played Darth Vader is going to be there. You're going to meet him. You're going to talk to him. You're going to get photographs. If you have something to get signed, you can get it signed. There's only maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 people alive at the minute who play Darth Vader. So here's your chance. I think the appeal of that, for me, seeing that personally, if I didn't run events, I'd look at that and go, ooh, think I'll go to that. But the problem, I suppose, this the size of Ireland is a problem. Like I've been in America and at cons in America and cons in England, um, and you got a lot more people. So I think last year there was a Dark Crystal convention, the Great Conjunction, and they had loads of people who worked on the Dark Crystal, like the voice actors, the puppeteers, some of the Hensons possibly even there. And I was like, I couldn't run that in Dublin. I just couldn't run it in Dublin. Um, so I sort of look at Star Wars as the same. It's like, yeah, you might have a character that to you is iconic. You had their action figure when you were a kid. Uh, in your head, Max Rebo or Klaatu or whoever is a household name, but in reality, they're not. The household names from Star Wars are Darth Vader, Yoda, Luke Skywalker, and yeah, they mostly all played by very well-known actors that, as you say, with Liam Neeson, maybe outside your budget. So yeah, you got to get inventive, I think, with things and still appeal to people with what you've got. And it's no disrespect to anyone that's involved in any level because every single guest that we've brought over, like I'm in awe of these people talking about their experiences working on the movies, whether they were a stormtrooper or they were inside a creature suit or they created some props or an assistant director or whatever capacity they worked on the movie. It's like it's incredible to hear this point of view. And for me, it's not about the celebrity, it's not about the ego, it's not about the fame or any of that. It's just about really good guests that give really good stories and really entertaining and really engaging with people. So yeah, I think getting that across in the marketing is difficult. I think that's probably what I'm trying to say. Getting it across to people that I did have people commenting on some of my social media posts like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, why would I go to that? And I'm like, I'm not asking you to go. I'm asking everybody to come. And like, there's a few hundred tickets sold already, and you're not going to be there, and everyone's disappointed that you're not going to be there. But please do think about coming, and it might change your mind about these shows. And my responses are never really negative. It's like, yeah, I understand that you don't know who this is, but come along and find out, and you might actually be surprised. And I say to the girls I have on the door with me that work on my team, I remember someone came along to one of my events and this person was extremely rude to them at the door. And I come over and I resolved everything. And the girl said to me, why were you so nice to that person? I was like, because if you can turn that person's opinion of the event, that's the amber nectar. That you've just took someone who arrived in there in bad form, and that person was the last person to leave the show that day. I was like, oh, I'm definitely coming to more of these now.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to take someone who's maybe not churning out the most positivity and turn them around. And I don't, yeah, not negativity. They're just not churning out the most positivity. It's just missing positivity. You're not full of negativity. So I'm saying glass half full type thing, but it's all difficult. But yeah,
Yeah.
make it
No,
work.
well, with the marketing and stuff, certainly fire over any of the, the stuff for Nuri and any of the upcoming shows. We'll gladly promote them over on the Urban Ramble and Instagram and that to help out.
Nice one. Spam people like crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
from my music days, I remember. Yes, I was there in the early days of spamming, and it's one of them things that pulls you back probably from. You probably miss opportunities if you're not spamming enough, and then you're probably messing up opportunities if you are spamming too much.
Getting that balance.
Yeah, it's getting the balance. Everything has to be balanced. It's like the force. Your life has to be in balance. Strong believer in that. Um, but yeah, getting the balance right, extremely difficult. I could spam my page every day with an event and still get someone after 6 weeks saying, I didn't know that was on. I missed it. Didn't know it was on. You're like, I don't know, the algorithms probably aren't your friend anymore on social media unless you're paying for it. So yeah, difficult getting the word out, but yeah, I think once you get a bit of a following and you're doing a good job on things, then yeah, I think more people follow. I think that's the natural order of things, but yeah, it's a long may it continue.
Thank you very much, Dave, for giving us your time today. All of the links to the cons will be in the description for this episode. If you find it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, it'll be in the wee below bit with the blue link. You just click it. And you can come see Dave and all the fantastic guests, and even me and Danny will be there, handing out kisses and handshakes. Um, but that'll do us for today. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us.
No problem. It was my pleasure, and best of luck with the podcast, and best of luck with the show you guys are putting together. I love hearing about stuff like that. So, any way that I can help, let me
Thank you
know.
very
Thanks,
much.
Dave. Thank you.
Danny, if you want to throw in a short plug.
Yeah, so as I mentioned there, Strange and Unusual, a celebration of science fiction and horror, will be taking place on Saturday, the 18th of April in the Braid Arts Centre, Ballymena. Hey.
Hey.
I like that.
And you can go to the big shopping centre after.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
But thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with more fun and shenanigans in the stars. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Like.
Marfalam! Are you downstairs again, honey?
Oh, not now, Ma. I gotta get out of here. I'm late. Oh, joy! Look out! Got you! Down in front. I'm not worthy. Oops. Sorry.